Hello, welcome to another Gundam Operation 2 video. That is the FAZZ, and welcome to another Buffed or Scuffed. If you guys aren't familiar with the series, basically the devs will do something at the end of their devlog, which is they'll do something called unit adjustments, and they'll take a few suits, they'll buff them, or even sometimes nerf them, and we take a look at some that interest me, or maybe interest a lot of other people, right? And we're looking at the FAZZ, and the FAZZ was certainly a troubled suit. Now, when it first came out, it was kind of fine, where it had high damage potential, it had shock dampeners. It was one of those suits you can sit in somewhere and just provide some major damage. Had two kinds of missiles to provide support fire. It was able to sit still in one place, which it took a long time. I think like half a minute, but you had the potential to nearly one-shot a general with the Hyper Mega Launcher. And you did have really low melee resistance. You had 0, but you had really high defense stats everywhere else. But yeah, it was really easy eventually at some point, as 600 and more people learn how to play against the FAZZ. It became really easy to target the FAZZ, even with the shock dampeners. You see, it didn't have any damage control, and it didn't really have a way to stun you really quickly, unless it charged up its beam rifle, right? So let's say you're the Humbrabi, which that was a suit before the FAZZ came out. You can just 2-tap him with your beam rifle, and then just your Fayadine rifle, I should say, and then stun him, and then go into a melee and do a lot of damage to him. Go for a quick downswing, go for another downswing. FAZZ would take a major damage, right? And yeah, nowadays, I say nowadays, I guess before they gave it the buff with damage control, yeah, with the power creep going on at 600 to 650, I think they might have added a 700 before they gave it damage control. Yeah, it was certainly not that fun to play when even generals can kind of stun you and bully you, because just the power creep in general, where more suits start getting more stun accumulation. So they did buff the FAZZ to give it damage control, which was a really good buff for the FAZZ to have, but eventually, it wasn't helping the FAZZ too much. Where it kind of helped it a little bit, and it started lowering down in the reference data, as the devs mention here. And of course, thinking about like the FAZZ at 700 just makes me cry, as it was before it got buffed. That just sounds like a really bad idea, where you can just, you're just so slow. You have 0 melee resistance, only damage control level 1. Man, I feel like it's really easy fodder unless you have a really dedicated team. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at the reference data that I mentioned earlier. They usually do this to kind of showcase where the FAZZ, or the suit in general, right, might be lacking. And yeah, they compare the costs as well. So looking at the 600 cost FAZZ, the average win rate for supports, which is good, they give you the class averages as well. The average win rate for supports was 50.3 at 600, which, keep in mind, 600 has been doing really well with putting out supports. I think the only whatever one that was recently added was the Rigazid, but everything else they've been having either buffs or just adding in, they've been doing really well. Examples would be like the Xanthos, the newest suit, I say newest, well, newest at 600, the Hakushiki Kai land combat type, or I guess they call it the ground type now, but yeah, there's that as well. And yeah, so the win rate for that was 50.3. This suit had a 47 just straight up, just 47.0. And we all know that, well, at least if you listen to the other buffed or scuffs, they usually buff suits when they have a 48% win rate, so it was already below that, which is not good. The rival win rate for supports is 49.0. This suit had a 44.3. Now, fortunately, the damage wasn't too far off, where the average was 73,600. This suit had a 73,400. So at least it was keeping up in damage. And then we look at the amount of times it was killed in a match, or at least the lives lost. The average was 2.8. This suit had 3.1. So it was losing a little bit more in lives, right? And then we look at 650. The average win rate was 50.3. This suit dropped lower to a 45.9. The win rate also dropped, with the average is 49. This suit had 42. And we start to see some drop off in damage, where the average is 77,000. This suit had a 74,000. So it did more damage than the 600 version of the suit, but it wasn't keeping up with the average. And then we look at the win rate, the losses here, and it went up, where the average was 2.9. This suit had 3.2. And finally, at 700, which, man, as expected, the win rate for supports was 50.2, which, you know, recently we had the buffed Kshatriya, which is an amazing buff, and they also have stuff like the FAZZ as well. Yeah, the average was 50.2. This suit had a 43.6. Damn, that is bad. And yeah, the average rival win rate was 47.5. This suit had a 34.9. And looking at the damage dealt, pretty sad, where the average is 89,000. This suit had a 69,000, which, I mean, nice, but at the same time, yeah, that's pretty low compared to the average there. And then we look at the amount of times it has died. The average is 2.9. This set at 3.3, so it just kept increasing as the cost went up, right? So yeah, what did they buff about this suit? Which, before I go into that, I forgot to mention that these two matches here, the first one's going to be at 700 colony drop, which is probably almost over by now. And these, I was actually kind of surprised. It was my first ever match playing the buff FAZZ, and I decided to go against the grain of the, you know, how people typically play colony drop, and I was honestly surprised with how the results turned out. So hopefully you guys can check that out. And yeah, the second match is going to be me on 650 military base. I believe it's 650. If not, it'll have to be 700, just because I want to try out the higher cost version of the FAZZ. Alright, so let's get into what they buffed about this suit. First of all, the unit HP has been increased from 19,000 to 21,000, which is fine because they usually buff health by 1,000, and hey, they buffed it by 2,000 now, so you get more health, and of course that goes up in cost. Next thing here is they actually buffed the melee resistance on the suit. Thank God. However, the level 1 600 only got up by, yeah, plus 5. So you only got 5 melee resistance, but this does stack up at, you know, each individual cost. And I believe the level 3 700 actually gets 20 melee resistance, which I know sounds, you know, still sounds pretty low, but you can actually kind of build that up, where I believe one of the builds I have done, which I believe, I don't think it was for the second match, I think it was an R2 base match I played, where I managed to get myself almost 40 resistance on everything. So, you know, you already have 40 on, let's say level 3, right? You already have 40 on the ballistic and beam. I had 39 on the melee resistance, which, combined with some of the buffers, which we'll talk about later, does provide some decent damage reduction against generals. Now, you still take some good damage against raids, but that's still a really nice idea you can implement where, hey, at least I finally have some melee resistance, and I can have some, still have some decent range strength to put off. So I actually really do like the melee resistance buff on the level 3, and I think somewhere with level 2 as well. But yeah, obviously the level 1 still is 5, and yeah, you have to be careful still. But hey, at least a higher cost, you know, can work pretty fine in taking less melee damage, right? Which has been an issue where you only had damage control level 1, but that's still really easy to bypass at a cost like 700. And yeah, you just get mollywopped even by some of the generals. So yeah, I'm really glad that they gave it some higher melee resistance, and you can do some builds with that, right? Alright, next thing here is the thrusters have also been increased from 60 to 70, which, hey, I'm fine with that. I mean, the suit's still really slow, but at least you can, you know, you have thrusters to kind of get you somewhere now, you know, so the reasons why it's high is just so you can get somewhere with that slow speed of yours. So again, yeah, I'm fine with that. More thruster gauge. Next buff here is that the level 1 has been given the special leg buffer level 1, which I believe that might be 10%, and that does go up with not with each cost, but the, you know, the level 2 will get, ooh, my bad, also the level 3, both of those will also get the level 2 version of that skill, which is minus 15% damage when shot on the legs. Which, yeah, that's a pretty decent damage reduction. Definitely will be useful, you know, so I'm really glad about that. Next buff is that the level 2 unit also gets damage control level 2, and along with that, the level 3 unit gets damage control level 3, which is that is actually a really, really great buff for this suit. As we know, damage control allows you to, as I mentioned earlier, where, you know, to mention the Humbrabi again, where if the Humbrabi took 2 shots to stun you with the Fayadine rifle, if you had damage control level 1, that will now take 3 shots to stun, and, you know, you can go up with having level 2 and level 3. So now the FAZZ, it's a lot harder for suits that have really good stun accumulation to kind of bully the FAZZ. And especially at a cost like 700, having damage control level 3 is really damn good. As you saw in the colony drop match, I kind of just ran through ran through an entire team and not get stunned. You know, you can do stuff like that. Get yourself to better positions when you notice you're getting shot at, or try to challenge people that are firing at you, because you have shock dampeners as well. So you're resistant to now instant stuns and now stun accumulation weapons. And of course, again, that's just really helpful for either challenging an opponent or providing damage without worrying to get stunned, right? And then getting followed up for crazy amounts of melee damage, you know. So that is a really great buff, especially the level 3 at 700. That is a really great buff. I really enjoy that buff. Really helps out the FAZZ just not get bullied in certain situations. And finally, for there's the unit features here. The level 3 unit, the special back add-on buffer, level 1 was increased to level 3, which I believe is 30% damage reduction on your back. Which, yeah, that's a pretty good, that's a really great reduction. So, yeah, you just take less damage now in your back, which, I mean, I know there's a lot of people, they'll try to circle around the FAZZ and try to shoot it from the back. The FAZZ is really slow to turn. So yeah, I mean, that'll decrease your damage taken in those kind of situations. So yeah, that's what they did for the unit features. Now we go on to the weapons. The FAZZ double beam rifle, your primary weapon, the projectile speed has been increased, and the projectile speed, while you have it focused, your charge shot is also increased. So that means they'll fire faster, makes it easier to hit. To be honest, playing, I didn't really feel that, but maybe because I just haven't played the FAZZ in so long that I was like, oh yeah, this is just what the FAZZ always felt like. But yeah, that's a really good skill for those that really do enjoy playing the FAZZ. It's now easier. You can hit your shots a lot more, so I'm fine with that. Makes it easier. The sub weapon here, the rear 18 tube missile launcher, the level 3 damage has been increased from 260 to 300, and yeah, you can definitely see that in some of the missile barrage stuff I've been doing, where I get like almost 500 damage per shot. It's a ballistic weapon. People don't typically build for ballistic at the higher costs, so yeah, giving that more damage, yeah, more damage potential there. And finally, the hyper mega cannon. The focus has been reduced yet again from 18 seconds to 12 seconds. So yeah, that is now just, you don't have to wait as much, which I'm totally fine with. As I mentioned earlier, there's sometimes it will happen where, in the past, where if you're charging your beam cannon, people know it takes a long time to charge, so they'll just shoot at you. So, and then you'll get stunned, and then yeah, you'll have to find somewhere else to go set up, or just not set up at all sometimes. So yeah, they reduce the focus on that. I'm totally fine with that. Allows you to get your big damage opportunity a lot quicker. And yeah, that is all they buffed for the FAZZ. And I gotta say, it is a pretty... I'm kind of surprised. I thought this suit would still kind of just get torn to shreds, but that the higher damage control combined with higher buffers, the way you can kind of build your suit to be even more tanky. Yeah, the suit can last a while in a match, in a range battle. Now, obviously, in some of the melee situations, it can still suffer, especially if you bait out the FAZZ. To do like a tackle or something, which honestly, there's a lot of situations I've been in where it's like, okay, I can't do anything but tackle, right? You don't have any instant stuns, unfortunately, unless you have your beam rifle fully charged. So you'll have to tackle, and then you'll take some major damage if they notice that you don't have any thruster gauge. So that's still an issue that the suit has, but honestly, it kind of needs a weakness where you don't want it to be really good, have shock dampeners, have really insane, resistances, and then still be really good at tanking melee damage. Which, hey, I mean, level 3 you can do that, but not to an insane degree, right? So, of course, just the FAZZ already had a high damage output anyway with its beam rifle. That hasn't really changed at all, because it's still pretty good at doing that. This is really just helps out the FAZZ take less damage, survive longer, and not get stunned as much, to provide that damage output, which honestly, it's really good that way. Again, I was really surprised how that 700 match ended up, and I'm really surprised how I've been playing 650 with this suit. And there's some moments where I can kind of almost play really aggressive with this suit, depending on the situation, of course. You know, I don't want to be, you know, going up to a raid in front of their face, right? But there's like a general. There's been a few moments where I'll just walk up to him, just menacingly, just blasting his health. Like the uncharged shots on the double beam rifle still do really good damage. You can build up damage and then, you know, probably go into your Vulcans or something for a really quick stun or something. So the FAZZ, again, the FAZZ damage output was it's never been, you know, bad, right? Although you can probably arguably say the missiles, which is what they buffed here anyway. So yeah, I'm going to say, you know, buffed or scuffed, this suit is definitely buffed. Now, I'm not sure if it'll still be the best suit you can play at a cost like 700, but, you know, if you, depending on the situation of the map and your teammates, I think you can do pretty alright with this suit. Now, the only thing I think the suit would need to get buffed in is I think they should increase the range of the double beam rifle, just to kind of put more emphasis on the long range of this unit, because they do mention, the devs do mention that they say this unit excels in medium to long range combat. So I think maybe giving the double beam rifle more range would be a really nice idea for the suit. As you saw in the colony drop match, I was kind of trying to play sniper with it at some points, and I realized, oh wait, my double beam rifle doesn't reach that far. I was trying to see if I can extend the hitbox a little bit more, because there's some suits I can shoot past, a little bit past where it says they can't fire as far, right? So I think maybe some more range on the double beam rifle I think would be really, really appreciated. And, you know, maybe they can also extend that to some of the missiles as well. It really help out what the suit kind of embodies. Because I believe in Sentinel, like that's also what it was. It's just really far range damage bombardment, but it really sucked at melee, right? No melee defense at all, which I think that would be fine for this suit. Maybe they can do that for the level 2 and 3 versions of the suit. Just increase that the range of the weapons, so that way, you know, it can help out in that area. But maybe they won't do that now since they increased the melee resistance on this suit. So now you can kind of, again, you can build decent melee resistance now, which is pretty crazy for this kind of suit, because you used to just not have any kind of melee defense at all. It was just a 0 straight up just throughout. So yeah, really, really glad about how they buffed the FAZZ here. But I still think it, you know, eventually it probably will fall through again, or maybe it's just the way the FAZZ is compared to a cost like 700 or even 650, where it is big, it's slow. It might be flawed enough in that area where it just might not be the best suit to pick at all times compared to something like, you know, like 700. You got stuff like the FAZZ and the new buffed Kshatriya, which those two suits are really, really great. But yeah, again, buffed or scuffed, I think this suit is definitely buffed. And again, I was really surprised at the results I was getting in matches. Really, really surprised. But yeah, you know, if you guys have a high-level FAZZ, give it a go. See how you guys feel about it. Again, you know, I don't think it's going to be the best support you can play, but, you know, you do have the damage output, and you do have some better stun resistance. It can allow for some really interesting plays in a match. Like, let's say, like, you know, we mentioned military base, and, you know, the match I had a military base. If you got a team protecting you, you know, you can kind of be like a stationary turret, just doing insane damage to people that are coming by. You know, if you sit up on top of a building or something, right? So yeah, again, there's a lot of opportunities to kind of play some interesting stuff with the suit. Which, hey, I'm totally all for. I'm all for the game having some, you know, not being stale, right? But yeah, that'll be it, and I will see you guys later. Bye.